Hi, my name is Shannon Sealy. I am the mother of Olivia Sealy. She is a 11-year-old girl. We're from Brownsville, Pennsylvania. And this is our story of my daughter who was diagnosed with brain cancer last year. So thank you
Uh,
for all having me tonight. An amazing opportunity. And I hope you guys get everything that you are looking for. And if anybody has any questions, um, during it or whatever, just let me know. And, I'm more of a casual speaker. So by no means do I have any type of, you know, cards that I'm going by, but I did put together a PDF of the tumor so I can show you guys. So at different points, we can talk about it.
okay, sounds good. And before that, we will do some organization announcement, and then we will start like your story, and then we will have some questions for you.
Perfect.
Okay, so I think I'm going to start because I don't want to waste the time on our announcement. I want to be able to have more time for Shannon. So welcome everyone to our GBM, and we will have Shannon, our guest, to share her story. And before that, let me do the ACCP announcement first. So ACCP, we are going to have journal club session on this Friday, March 4th at 7:30 a.m. And this time our topic is infectious disease with Dr. Wessler and Joshua Posner. And second one is our election is coming up, and here are the requirements to run for our e-board position. So for candidate, you need to be ACCP full paid member. That means include national and local. And you need to be a full member by Sunday, March 14th. And for attendance point, you need to at least have 4 attendance points, and 2 points must be from general body meeting. And for e-board meeting, we are going to have our e-board meeting on Tuesday at 6 p.m. It's tomorrow. So if you are interested in knowing more about ACCP, feel free to join us. And this one is not required, but we encourage you to do so. And our application is open already, and it will last until Sunday, March 14th and 11:59 p.m. And our election day is on Friday, March 19th at 4:30 p.m. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our e-board. And next, Ms.
Awesome. So ACCP is happy to present that we're going to be selling the UIC Chicago Skyline for our fundraiser this semester. We have 3 different colors of tie-dyes, and not only that, but we have 3 different types of garments. So there are t-shirts, long sleeves, and tank tops. I'm going to drop the order link in the chat. Orders are due Monday, March 8th at 5 p.m. So just check it out. It's there if you guys would like. And then Yvonne, you can go to the PPA announcements if you like. Okay, so PPA is also going to be hosting elections pretty soon. Platforms and the link to platforms will drop pretty shortly here. They're going to be due on April 16th at 5 p.m. And election day is Friday, April 23rd at 6 p.m. Requirements is to be a local member of PPA by Friday, April 16th at 5 p.m. and to attend at least 1 PPA event throughout the 2020 and 2021 school year. Some upcoming events, we have Jeopardy coming up on Thursday, April 8th at 7 p.m. It's $5 to enter to play for a prize, or you can come in for free. It's up to you. We're going to be doing a social with University of Connecticut College of Pharmacy, which is really exciting. That'll be Tuesday, March 30th at 5 p.m. and there'll be more details announced. And then we have a journal club that we're anticipating with the pediatric pharmacist, Dr. Oler, and more details will be announced on that.
So today we have our lovely speaker, Shannon, and we also have Todd from Pharmacy Podcast that joined us today. And Shannon and Todd, you guys can introduce yourself?
Hey, I would like to say thank you so much to the students of being so open and building a sense of empathy to who is the most important person in healthcare, and that is the patient. That is our patient's support, the patient's family, being able to understand it from their perspective. The the fact that you are becoming providers, I cannot tell you how proud I am. I've always been known as the pharmacist #1 fan. And when I see young pharmacists coming into practice and the importance in the sectors of pharmacy that you're choosing, whether that be health system and being able to look in the eyes of a worried mother of what her child's going through, or community pharmacy, asking and answering so many questions that you have to be prepared for. And sometimes it's not about the medication. Sometimes it's just about being a worried parent or a worried caretaker. In your senior care pharmacy division, caring for geriatrics and seniors are so fragile and they need additional support. They need your insights, your the medication leaders, and then specialty disease states. We're going to be touching on the world of specialty medications tonight and what that means, the expense that's there, and the complexity. So I am so excited that you're getting this opportunity to talk with our bosses, and our bosses is the patient. And that's who we have to cater towards as care providers and as pharmacists and as people in my position that advocate for you, the pharmacist. You are my most favorite provider, and I care about the future of your careers and the success that you're going to have, because that's going to prove the importance of what a pharmacist is to such a delicate matter as what we're going to hear about tonight. From Shannon is a member of my community. She's from Brownsville, Pennsylvania, and we both live miles from here. Not even me, I'm only 4 miles down the road. And where are you, Shannon?
I'm like 50 feet.
It's 50 feet down the road.
Yes.
So this is our community, and how proud I was to open my studio, the world headquarters of the largest podcast in the entire healthcare industry dedicated to pharmacy, and open it up to Shannon and her family and Livi, and be able to tell this story, and then have the College of Pharmacy back this up, and have you have this experience. I am so proud of you, and I'm proud of our profession, and I'm proud of our home here in Brownsville, because Brownsville has been absolutely amazing. And I'm going to turn it over to Shannon to tell a little bit of that story. But Brownsville, our community has really, really come together.
They have.
Yep.
Very much so. So I did get a couple questions sent to me. So I guess I will start with just the story of Livi and how we got diagnosed. So back in May, we all know that we're in the middle of a pandemic. Back in May, my daughter, I went out and took her to Walmart, and I noticed she was dragging her foot. And I was like, And you have to realize I'm probably one of those helicopter moms. So I was like, all right, something's going on. Called my niece up, who just got her doctorate in physical therapy. And I'm like, what do you see? She's like, yeah, I see something. We're like, okay, fine. I literally I texted the PCP because I happen to be that close with her. And I said, something's going on. And she said, okay, let's make an appointment for Monday. Let's get some x-rays. Let's get some blood work. We did. X-rays came back fine. Blood work was a little bit wonky. Um, at that point, I just was like, can we repeat the blood work? She's like, absolutely. That was on a Monday. By Wednesday, when we got the second set of blood work back, something in my gut literally was just like, you need to go further. You need to go down to Children's. I want to see a neurologist. I went ahead and called Children's Hotline and down to Children's Hospital, Pittsburgh. And I just said, I would like to see a neurologist. They were like, well, since your doctor's not referring it, it might cost you out of pocket. I'm like, I really don't care. Just get me down there. The lovely scheduler got me in right away. Friday, I think it was 8:30 in the morning. My daughter was so mad at me because I had to wake her up early. And I was like, that's it. We're just going. So over like from the time I saw it on Saturday to that Friday, I definitely saw more of a decline, and I was more worried, like, okay, maybe I honestly thought she got bit by a tick. We're dealing with some Lyme disease right now, something of that sort. Had no clue what else was going to go on. Got in to see the neurologist, and she did a couple tests on her, and all she said was, I'm going to send you over to Children's. And I'm like, oh, okay. But I was okay with that. Guys, I honestly thought, like, this is what I want, because as a mother, you want that opportunity. I didn't like those answers, so I decided to go further. Okay, fine. So we walk into Children's, and that's when I knew something was more serious than just Lyme's disease or just, weakness in the left arm and leg. At that point, the head of neurology rushed us back, and we were in an MRI within 20 minutes. And the doctor came out and said to me, it's going to be about an hour. And I said, okay. So I got myself settled in the room, and I'm texting people. And within 15 minutes, she comes out. And I realized when she went to kneel down, this is not a good scenario. And she said, I don't know how to tell you this other than your daughter has about a 5 centimeter mass in her brain. And I was like, I just remember getting sick. I remember screaming. And I remember, unfortunately, I was by myself because my husband was home with our other child. And it was just the most gut wrenching thing I've ever had to deal with. I mean, till this day, I still have flashbacks of how it went down. And I still try to get myself to remember things, and I can't, because it's just, so then it was just, they were awesome. The hospital, the staff, the everyone from the top down just really, really jumped in and was like, we're going to call you, we're going to call your husband. We're going to, at that point they were like, who can we call to get you down here? And I called my sister-in-law and my niece, and they made it down, which is usually about an hour and 15-minute drive for us. They made it down in 40 minutes. I don't know how they did it, but they did. And then the nightmare started, and it was just, um, basically the doctors coming out and telling us, she has this huge mass. She's going to have a biopsy done. Then we got shocked again because unfortunately the mass is on her thalamus. And I did not realize this, but when a mass is on your thalamus, it's very, very rare that they ever touch it. They never do any type of surgery. They never do any type of anything. So we decided that happened. We got diagnosed on May 22nd. On 5/28, we went in for our first biopsy brain surgery. And talk about traumatic, very traumatic, just all around. It was just 100%. My husband and I, we didn't know what was up from down. Um, After that, we basically got told it's a 4 to 6 week wait for pathology, which was just agonizing. I mean, but that was the point where I said to one of the neurosurgeons and to the oncology, when we're sitting in the room after the first biopsy, when oncology walked in, I thought to myself, okay, they're not sending oncology up here just because there's something going on. They're sending up here because they know it's cancer. And, it was, and I was told multiple times the look of it, the shape of it is leaning more to a higher grade. And I was like, oh, and of course you Google, and I know you're not supposed to Google, but that's just natural, I think, for anybody to do that. At that point, the biopsy came back inconclusive, and I was so mad. But how do I tell my 10-year-old that I have to go put her back through another brain surgery to get another biopsy? It was the most heart wrenching thing of my life. So July 7th, no, I'm sorry, June 7th, they sent us back in for another biopsy. During the first biopsy, they put in what they call an Ommaya reservoir. It's basically like a shunt. It has a little thing at the top, and it has a little piece of wire, and that wire connected to about the 5 cysts that were attached to her tumor. And I'll show you here a picture shortly. Unfortunately, hers is very complicated for the fact that she has a tumor, and then on top of the tumor, there's 4 or 5 cysts growing out from it. So you will see in the PDF that I'll pull up here shortly, that it is actually, let me pull it up so I can show you. There we go. Okay, so this, how can I turn it? Oh, here we go, this way. This way? Okay, so can we turn it this way at all? Go one more. Give me a sec. I just want to show you the, oh, right. Okay. So what you're looking at here is my daughter's brain. This is your midline. Clearly you can see we have a midline shift, and it is, the tumor's literally from this corner, which is one of the huge cysts, all the way over, and then from this bottom all the way to the top. What you can't see that much in this picture is the amount of swelling, which is right around here. You can kind of see it because from what I get taught now, this whole dark matter is the swelling in it. So it's one of those, when they first showed this to us, we were like, okay. And I'll never forget, I said to the neurosurgeon, he was, Dr. Green was our official neurosurgeon. He was one of her students. I said to him, well, just go in and take it out. And he's like, well, I can't do that. And I was like, yes, you can. I'm giving you permission. Go in and take it out. And he's like, can't do that. And I was like, why? And he goes, if you touch the thalamus, she'll never walk, she'll never talk, she'll never move. And I was like, oh, okay. So at that point, it was just, we moved on to, after the second biopsy, we got notification that it was a polycystic astrocytoma, and she's a grade 1-2. So, you know, it has good and bad. I guess you could say out of everything, I guess I can say that it's better than being a high grade 4. So I count my blessings in that regard. But on the other aspect, I knew in my gut, in my heart, that this was going to be a journey, that it's going to absolutely be horrible and just be a rough journey. And that was the piece of advice that the neurosurgeon told me was, this is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's going to take time, and we're going to get through this. And I said, okay, fine. So that's the gist basically of the beginning of our story. You know, we start chemotherapy on July 22nd. That, after we got a port put in, we then started chemo that day, and we've been on a protocol of Carboplatin and vincristine every 2 weeks, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So that's what we do. So I do know that the next question, it says here, was your family approached with the opportunity to get involved with a clinical trial? Yes, we were. That's a tough decision to make. That's something that my husband and I agonized over and debated and researched. And I can't even begin to tell you the amount of hours I did not sleep just to look into what a clinical trial was, what took place, how it's different in children than it is adults, so forth and so on. We ultimately decided with Olivia's opinion. We did, you know, she's 10. She can tell us things. She can voice her opinion on things. So we asked her, a clinical trial with us would be, you know, 2 to 3 years of taking pills versus chemotherapy, you know, basically from a year to 18 months. And she just said to us, I'm not ready to take pills yet. I just want to do standard chemo. I knew then that's the way we have to go, because I can't force my daughter to open her mouth and shove a pill down her. And it just wasn't something that I wanted to go down that avenue. So we very quickly were just like, let's just start chemotherapy. So we did on July 22nd. At that point, let me see if the next one. Okay. So July is when we started chemo. This is done on August 21st. And I brought this picture in because this is something very, very interesting that the doctors even find it amazing. You can clearly see that these cysts have morphed into more. At this point, there's about 3 to 4 of them, and there's all like behind here. So you can clearly see where the amile is placed up here, and it clearly runs down. At this point, the tumor is still up at this end and goes all the way down to this end. Some of this is swelling from what I've been told. So it's a little bit, a little bit deceiving in that regard, but you can clearly see where her midline shift is still shifting over. After the second biopsy, we spent about 6 days in the pediatric ICU. They were concerned that she had a midline shift of about 7, and they slowly saw it go back, but that was a very long six days. I'll never forget. And it was, it wears on you as a parent to see your child like that. My husband commuted back and forth a lot because we had our son. He was 2 at the time when this all started. So, we wanted to try to keep things a little bit normal for him. So my husband went home a lot. I stayed with our daughter in the actual hospital the whole time. So, does anybody have any questions so far?
I have a question.
Sure.
So you mentioned earlier that you did some research into like looking up clinical trials, and you said that there's differences between like clinical trials in adults and children. Do you remember by any chance like the differences?
The one big difference that it was explained to me was in children, they don't give placebos. So it does not matter if in any clinical trial which involving children, you get the medicine. It's a matter of if it works for your child and that tumor. So that was reassuring to me, but it was one of those, I just knew that it would be harder for us to get her to take it every day once the side effects kicked in. Whereas I literally drive her to the hospital now. We go in and I look at the doctors and say, okay, it's your turn. Like I just play the mom role at that point. So
that makes sense.
yeah. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a hard thing. And I think as a mother and a father, my husband and I both said, I didn't want to do that every day of my life and fight with her. My daughter's very stubborn. And she just was, just kind of said, I can't do that. And I said, okay. And we just kind of backed off from that avenue and just went down the traditional chemotherapy way. So does anybody else have any questions?
Shannon, I have a question. So you mentioned a few medical professionals you interacted with. Which ones did you interact with the most? And did you have any positive or negative experiences?
Okay, so my interactions have been with oncology, neurosurgeon. So I can tell you that the person who I connected with right off the bat was the neurosurgeon. Her name is Dr. Green. She literally was like, I have a daughter. She's 9. I understand where you're coming from. And I was a little like, okay, fine. I know she wasn't going to just go in there and, see if maybe she could figure out something. So I kind of felt reassured in that regard. The other people, like obviously our oncology doctors are amazing. I love Dr. Felker. I love Dr. Katie. Allie, which is one of the PAs, is absolutely amazing. They have connected with my daughter, and I think it makes it a little bit easier. I'm not going to say.
Yeah, definitely.
Just a tad bit. The other person that I shared with Todd the last time I did this was the pharmacist up at Rite Aid. I've gotten her name's Renee. And she is amazing. I've gotten to know her over the years just of having children. She was always just one of those, hey, Shan, whatever you need. And one day she gave me her personal cell phone. And I'm not one to hit it up. I'm just kind of like, yeah, I'll just use it when I need to. I'll never forget, though, when word got out what was going on, she reached out to me via text and was like, anything you need, you come and see me. I don't care if it's midnight. I don't care if it's 4 a.m. You come and see me. I was like, okay, fine. And I will say that I have texted her a couple of times and said, they're telling me this, they're saying this, what's your opinion on this? And we've built a better friendship, but I also respect the fact that, I mean, I'll be the first to admit nurses and pharmacists know a heck of a lot more than doctors. And I say that because you guys really see the ins and outs of what patients deal with on a day to day. And I have the utmost respect for doctors, don't get me wrong, but they come in, do their thing, they move on. I think it's the relationships you build with nurses and doctors and pharmacists in general that you really connect with them, and then they do go that extra mile for you.
Yeah, that is so great. You're able to connect with the people. I know things are just a lot better when you can connect with the people helping you.
I feel like I have that connection that if I need something, I mean, I've texted her and say, they want to try this pill. Like we went through this whole entire learning on how to swallow pills at Children's Hospital, which is great. Child life is amazing. Some of the liquids she started out with, it was like, I couldn't pay her enough to swallow this medicine at all. But Renee and the PA, Allie would be like, let's try this pill. And I'm like, well, is it small? Can we like train her to do it? And it's amazing how much they really have jumped in and just, I mean, the positive relationship that they have with my daughter is amazing. And I respect that. And I love that. So, it makes, once again, this journey a little bit easier. It's not going to be easy. I know that. So that's, the difference. So does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. What was the hardest part of being a caregiver for your own daughter?
Okay, so this is a tough question because when oncology came to the room and was like, oh, you're going to get to know us and we're going to see you and we're going to, talk about different medicines we're going to give you, to my daughter, who's 10 at the time. I thought to myself, okay, fine. So as a mother, I said, well, what's going to happen to her? Is she going to be sick? Is she going to be nauseated? I mean, is she, what is going to happen to her? Oh, she'll do good. She's going to be great. She's not going to lose a lot of her hair. It's, and it was like a positive kind of upbeat. And I'm thinking to myself, okay. And after 2 weeks of hearing that, I thought, I don't think doctors are trained to come in and be like, oh, it's going to be horrible. She's going to lose her hair. It's going to be horrific. You're going to hold a bucket for 12 hours. I honestly, like for us, when we started the chemo, and they constantly told you the carboplatin is the worst chemo. It's the toughest one. It's the one they give adults. It's the one that they give for breast cancer. It's the ones that they use as a general chemotherapy. So I know it was going to be rough. The hardest thing as a mom is waking up every day and realizing that I'm taking her back to something that makes her sick and I can't help her. She just has to go through that period of sickness because I know in the end she's going to get better. Um, and I say that meaning, unfortunately, since Livy's tumor is inoperable, we're always going to have this tumor. We're always going to have some type of treatment going on. The goal of the treatment is to basically stun the cancer from reproducing. And then it's just a matter of wait and watch until it starts again. They have told us that at her young age of starting puberty, it does have a tendency to jumpstart itself and then kind of back off a little bit. So we're kind of hoping in the next, year, 2 years, we might see a little bit of a delay in it. So I would most likely say the hardest thing ever as a mom is just knowing that I have to give her medicine that makes her so sick and I can't do anything about it. I mean,
Right.
can't do anything about it. So it's disappointing. And I think to myself quite often, in today's medical technology, why isn't there something out there that they can give us that they're not that sick? But they tell us, like, basically what I was told was, here's a point where this is how her body's going to react to any of this chemo, and I'll tell you, she gets the chemo, she usually gets sick in the middle of chemo, and then we get home once again, we got about an hour, 10-minute drive. We get home, and then the carboplatin and the vincristine, it's a constant stay ahead of the nausea. She vomits quite often, and then it's the never ending till the following Wednesday is when she starts to bounce back up again. And then unfortunately, by that following Friday, we're back getting another type of chemo, which is that vincristine.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have questions?
I had a question for you. So you mentioned that you really admire the pharmacists and the healthcare professionals that you worked with. What were the most helpful resources of information your healthcare professionals gave you, and how did this impact your knowledge on the situation from the original knowledge that you started with?
I think the knowledge that I've taken in is the fact that every kid is different, and every kid is does, and I guess just like accepts what we're doing differently. So I think it's wonderful to know that all of the professionals kind of adapt their ways and adapt their explaining things to a 11-year-old and how they explain it. Like, I'm a very factual, cut and dry kind of personality. And I mean, I could care less if if it's the most horrible thing in the world. I just want to know the facts about it. Where my husband's more of the kind of beat around the bush, and he needs to get it laid on nicely to him. Then he mulls over it for a couple hours, and then he accepts it. And I think what I take from the beginning to what I take now is, it's just, when I say this, it's a journey that I never thought I would be on. It's a club that I don't want to be in. Either does she. But I also think that it's amazing of the love and support that they show you, not only like your personal community and your personal family and friends show you. So it's a surrounding that I think I literally just absorb stuff all day. And I'm currently working full time. I have to say my boss is amazing for the fact that he lets me do what I have to do. But I mean, there's times that I'm in the office and I'm just distracted because I hear of another research that I look into, or, and it's hard. It's hard as a mom because, ultimately I think if I didn't have work, I think I would be in the bed a lot, just like crying, because I think it's one of those things that's your fight or flight kind of thing. And I think I just get up every day and I fight.
Thank you for that.
Mhm.
I have a question.
Sure.
Did you trust the medical team, and did you feel like your daughter was getting that most optimized treatment?
Okay, that's a good question, because in the very beginning, let me see if I have this. Okay, so I can answer that with this. So in the very beginning, this screen to the left is August 21st, and you can clearly see the tumor and the cyst. And then this one over here that I'm pointing to is November 3rd of 2020. Do I trust her doctors? 100%. Do I think they have her have her intention in her brain embedded in their brains 24 hours a day? Yes, I do, because I think I make it that way. I'm one of those moms that literally, I mean, if I read something new, I make a note, send an email. If I feel that something's not right with my daughter, I make a note and I email, I call. I'm just as I say, I'm an advocate for her, because she, as being 11, can't really do that for herself yet. I'll never forget, I said to Dr. Katie, who is a lovely, lovely doctor. She says to me, I said, well, it's not shrinking. The neurosurgeon, other people said it would shrink. And she's like, we can't focus on the shrinking. And I'm like, well, what do you mean we can't focus on the shrinking? Like, they said it's going to shrink. Why is it shrinking? She says, not everything shrinks. And I was like, well, what do you mean not everything shrinks? And she just says to me, stop focusing on the numbers of how big the tumor is and where the cysts are and how big they are. Focus on the fact that there's no new growth. And it literally took me probably 2 weeks for that to sink in. But don't get me wrong, I still literally think to myself, I still want it to shrink, which I think I, as a mom, I'll forever want it to shrink, because if it shrinks, it means that she won't have as much left-sided weakness in her arm or leg. I also think if it shrinks, it means like maybe ultimately it's going to go away in some, miraculous faith-filled person that I try to be. But I think, to answer that question, yes, I trust them. But yes, once again, I don't think they're out there to be like, oh, it's going to be horrible. You're going to hate this and you're never going to come back. I think they just try to paint the picture of, this is what we have to do. It's going to be unpleasant. We're just going to roll with it and see what comes out of it. So, I definitely, there's days that I think to myself, okay, do I 100% feel like they're telling me the truth? Yeah, I know they're telling me the truth, but I think they're the kind of people that are going to sugarcoat it, because I think the reality of this magnitude is worse than what we all think it is. Do you understand what I mean?
Hi, Shannon. So I have a question for you, and thank you so much for joining us today. I heard your story on the podcast, and then I really want to help you out. And so my question for you is, what do you find to be your most effective coping methods? And was there anything that you and your family did that helped you more than other methods?
Okay. So coping for me is a big thing. I'll be totally 100% honest. Everybody in our family sees a therapist for the fact that we have a lot going on in our life. That's a big avenue for me. The other avenue is I literally just cry. And I literally can walk around with a smile on my face, but then 5 minutes, go cry, come back, and I'll get back to whatever I need to do. I find crying a release for me, because I don't know how else to handle it. I don't know how else to deal with it. I don't know. I mean, you would think, oh, in May we'll be coming up on a year. Maybe I should have accepted this. It's not a point of accepting it. It's just the fact that this is my life now moving forward. I had to grieve the fact that I no longer had the daughter that was healthy, vibrant. Now we're dealing with somebody who's sick from chemo and has left-sided weakness, and it's hard. The other thing that is amazing to me, coping wise, is the fact of the love and support that I've gotten from the family. Um, the family and friends and the support of this community is phenomenal. I honestly, it's so overwhelming that it's just one of those things that I get goosebumps just even thinking about it. I mean, there was a huge spaghetti dinner thrown for us. There was a good friend of ours by the name of Davis Slegel. He owns a graphic shop down in like Little Fredericktown, PA. He designed the Team Livi logo and got the store up and running, and have printed thousands upon thousands of t-shirts and sweatshirts and bracelets that the community just wears. And um, it's nice to go out in the community and really see that. It is truly amazing. And I know I'm blessed. And in a way, it helps me cope the fact that I feel like I'm not alone. So I know sometimes I feel like I'm alone, but I know I'm not alone, because I literally can walk in the local Walmart and people are wearing Team Livy shirts, the bracelets, and you know, it's amazing how many prayers and how many um, unspoken thoughts are just given to us day in and day out. And I think that is a coping mechanism that I've picked up on. Other people's strength has given me strength literally just to get up every day. So it is amazing.
I have another question for you, and I think you kind of touched on this just now. So, like, what are the best ways that your friends or coworkers or relatives can support you and your daughter during this time?
Okay, so honestly, eh, it's the thoughts and prayers that count. I get it 100%. It's one of those things that it's so hard to explain. The financial burden that this has put on my husband and I and our family is huge. But the love that everyone has given us is is amazing. Um, Unfortunately, because of my daughter's left-sided weakness and the doctors don't feel like it's going away anytime soon, and this is kind of like a lifelong journey, um, we've had to like remodel our bathroom so she can have a walk-in shower. And it recently got started. And it's kind of sad to see that, I just didn't expect this, but the money raised from different organizations and different um just different people, and there's organizations out there that have sent us checks that I'm just like, I don't know these people, but they know that what we're going through because they were on a similar journey. And it's amazing that they've decided to help us. um I have family that cooks us food every chemo Friday, twice a month. We get home and there's food on that table. And there's family that cooks food throughout the week. They drop off a lasagna. I can't begin to tell you. First of all, anyone who knows me, I'm not a cook. I don't like to cook. Um, I have people that just send Olivia little gifts every once in a while. Somebody just sent her one of those origami books where she can fold these little pages. And she was like, wow, that's amazing. And to me, it makes me think like, it's keeping her busy and it's keeping her mind off of things that, no 11-year-old should have to think about, period. It's the, hey, Shan, come for a walk. Let's just walk and have, and just talk. And, it's the time that I spend with very close family and friends that we don't talk about it. We talk about everything else. We talk about the weather. We talk about, just what's going on at work or what's this and what's that. And that has helped. And it's amazing. There was a quote out there that somebody once said, um, you never know how loved you are until you're part of the club that has a brain tumor. And I can honestly say, once again, not the club I want to be in, but 100% the love, the outpouring of support is phenomenal. It's amazing. Yeah, just so you guys know, I'm not from around Brownsville. I'm from eastern part of the state, Philadelphia, out that way. Born and raised Levittown, PA. Um, my family, my mom and dad have, when they found this out, dropped everything. My parents lived in a hotel for the first 4 weeks of diagnosis so they could be close to us and offer support. Shortly after the second biopsy, they dropped an RV in our second lot of our house and have moved in. And basically, they come out. They're still working, so they commute every 2 weeks, every chemo, and they come out and watch our son for us. So my husband and I can both be together with Olivia during her treatments, which is amazing. My husband's family, we all live within 3-4 miles of each other, and a drop of a hat. If I need to run somewhere, someone comes up and watches the kids. If I need anything, oh, I'll get it for you, drops it off, no questions asked. Well, I say the pandemic has hindered part of the process of getting together and just grieving this whole thing. 100%. I actually made that comment a couple weeks ago to my sister-in-law. I hate the pandemic because I feel we would have gathered more as a family to deal with this, but unfortunately we couldn't. So we just kind of made it, and we've had to we've done a lot of family Zooms, which is fun. And it's tough. It's tough to see it. I think it's tough for my family and my husband's family to see Olivia go through a big change. I mean, they told her she wasn't going to lose a lot of hair. She's lost a lot of hair. She really has. She has um we comb it differently so we can cover up a lot of spots that, you know, it's kind of like a rude awakening. And it makes you, it definitely makes your priorities different, makes you realize what's important. I hope that answered the question.
It did, yes. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. So let me show you this real quick. This is, okay, so the one on the left is 11.3. The one on the right is 1.5. In the next couple of weeks, we actually go for another MRI. Clearly, you can see the cyst that have partaked more into my daughter's brain. These are the cysts, these two spots right here. And the tumor, once again, rides from down here. Up, up. How do I get back? Unmagnify me. Oh, there we go. Oh, here we go again. Oh, it's thinking. Okay, so clearly you can see where the cyst is, the two big ones. That's fine. Okay, perfect. You can clearly see where the cyst runs from the side over here all the way up to over here. So recently on this MRI, we tried to drain the cyst because we were told we would do that periodically from time to time. And unfortunately, they did not drain. So it was one of those things that at this point, they kind of said, let's just let it, kind of just let them sit there. And when we go for the next MRI, we'll see what they have done at that point. They're telling me they're not sure if there's any, if we drain the cyst, does our left-sided weakness get better? We haven't been able to achieve that to actually see if there's a difference yet. So my goal would be, yes, to drain the cyst. Therefore, it would be less space in her brain and less swelling. But, I'm not a doctor, so I just kind of go with the flow in that respect.
I have a question.
Sure.
What aspects of your healthcare experience do you think could have been improved, and what could we do as like future pharmacists to help you improve that?
Okay, so in the very beginning stages of this diagnosis, I don't know. I can't sit here and tell you I know who it was because I don't remember. But a woman said to me, you need to go and get the loophole state insurance. And I was like, well, what's that? And she was like, it's insurance. You're going to have this for life. So you need to pick up this state insurance. And I was like, okay, fine. So I went ahead and, we had to go through this process and we were approved. And I went up to the pharmacy at the hospital and the woman says, oh, I'm getting checked out. And she says, oh, it's going to be like $27. I'm like, well, can you double check my insurance? Because I was told that we're not going to really have, any co-payments for the medicine stuff. She goes, oh yeah, absolutely. So she double checked it. And I said, do you have the secondary insurance for us? She's like, no. So I said, okay, fine. So I gave it to her. She ran it through. And lo and behold, I don't have to pay anything. I said, okay, fine. At that point, I thought to myself, I really don't think a lot of people know about it because I think it's one of those things that unless someone would have told me, I would have not had a clue. And I think what I think as your jobs as students, I think would be beneficial in knowing, like, if you guys would learn the ups, ins and outs of what the magnitude of how you're going to be able to help people, if you understand what I'm saying. It's amazing. And I hope I said this to Todd earlier, if there's one thing that I hope to take out of all of this is that if I could help someone, then I know I've done a good job. I think as pharmacist students, if you guys can realize that it's the emotion behind a mother or behind a father, or that is really where I think you need to focus, because I know from the get-go, if Renee wasn't there for me, I think I would be in a different predicament, in the fact that I think I just would be second guessing myself. And, I mean, she's just one to, when I pick up a script, she just tells me right away, listen, look out for this. Let's do this. Or, I'll never forget, Shan, did you ever hear that saying where a little bit of sugar makes it all fine? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, give her sugar, give her a pixie stick. And I'm like, oh, I never heard of that before. So it's the little ins and outs that I think you guys will pick up on through the years of your learning and just connecting with people. I mean, let's face it, I think you're always going to have that one person that has some type of ailment or disease that you're just going to connect with. And that's where I think you guys will thrive as individuals of helping people, because you're going to have that connection with people. And I think that's where it's not like the biggest thing that I wrote down, because I see that one of the biggest pieces for me is communication. And that is where I think anybody in any field, in any aspect of life, communication is the hardest thing that we have to deal with. But it's also an easy thing if people would just communicate. And I always say, I love to text. I'm a texter now more than ever, but I often say when someone texts me, one person's perception is a different person's reality. So if you could always try to put yourself in those person's shoes, then you'll realize, like, the difference of what it makes and what it takes to be a caregiver or a parent of somebody getting involved.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other questions?
I have a question for you. I was wondering if I know you said you don't want to be a part of this club, but for anybody else, parents of young children who are becoming diagnosed with brain cancer or any kind of cancer for that matter, if there's any advice you would give now that you're kind of a year in, and that you would want to give to other parents or family members who are dealing with a similar difficult situation.
Okay, so I can honestly tell you that I was blessed with, I went on Facebook, put on my daughter's story and just said, can anybody tell me, you can stop sharing. Can anybody tell me the after effects of um, vincristine and carboplatin? Because I wanted firsthand, even though the doctor said she'll be fine, it'll all work out. I was just wholeheartedly like, I want to hear it from another mom. I was blessed with literally this woman sends me a message on Facebook and she goes, hey, I'm down at Children's too. Who's your doctor? Falker? And I was like 100% like, wow, this is amazing. I said, well, what kind of tumor does your daughter have? And she's like, she has a thalamic tumor. I'm like, no, are you kidding me? She's like, no. And I was like, okay. So I'm like, listen, this is my personal cell phone. Her name's Crystal and her daughter is named Lowen. And we have connected. We've become fast, great friends. She has been a rock to me because she is in the health field as a nurse. So when things come up medically, I literally text her while I'm sitting in the hospital. Hey, they just said this to me. What does that mean? They just said, so it's amazing that I've formed a friendship that quickly. My one biggest advice would be to reach out to people, to want to talk to people, find out. Um, I might not have all of the answers, but I would be more than happy to give you my experience and my daughter's experience, which is, once again, it's a journey and this journey is forever in our life, but it's amazing to see the people that rally around you. And, I do say that I tread lightly on Facebook groups because it can become overwhelming, but I like to say I'm a good judge of character. So I kind of realized quickly that Crystal and I would become friends. We actually run on a little bit of the same chemo schedule. So our girls have gotten to know each other. And it's nice to see my daughter connect with other people who are going through the same thing. So, it's a lot. And I tell all the moms out there that, or I tell all the parents out there that, you know, I, it's going to be a journey, and I'm going to get through it. I just have to get up every day and put one foot in front of the other. It's, it's, it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's a very hard thing. I have my faith, and I'm very happy to have faith. Um, it's hard. That's what I can say.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to ask a final question. If you had, I think all of us here are going to be future pharmacists one day. If you had any final advice for pharmacists in the hospital, in the community setting, for dealing with difficult, complex patients, like your daughter's case, and what advice you can give us to be better practitioners.
The only advice that I can give you guys is just to connect with the people, try to get on their level. Um, and I say it all the time. I'm thankful that Renee is on my level because it makes me realize that I'm not alone. So, as future pharmacist, I would just really focus on getting to know your patients and getting to know that they might have this question, but then 2 weeks later, they might have another question. And yeah, it might be the same answer, but they just need to hear it in a different angle. And, I think everybody learns in different ways. And I think it's just one of those things that as long as, once again, you keep communicating with them, it'll be a good thing. So,
I want to say that I know because I've been a fan of you people, pharmacists, since 2004 when I entered pharmacy. And pharmacists are some of the most analytical, nerdiest, little bunch of people out there that are just fascinating with what you have memorized and compounded in your head. You've been able to understand outcomes of compounded medications almost in a predictive modeling analytical way. And I've also seen our community pharmacists and several healthcare hospital pharmacists really taking all of that data and all of that knowledge and humanizing it to the level like Renee does from our Brownsville Rite Aid, and it's just exciting that you are looked at as one of those champions that are helping this family out and helping this Livi out, and it's a step by step, and remembering the human side, regardless of how much data there is
right.
is just so important. So I'm proud of you as students right now that you're just taking the time to even listen to this, because this is the most important part of other than saving lives and making sure somebody doesn't have a drug or drug allergy or drug food interaction that could hurt them or kill them. This is the next step of the most important thing
Right.
is being here for the patient. So I want to thank you guys again for this.
Thank you for the opportunity. It's an amazing time in my life, and my daughters and my husband's, my family's. It's nice to get it out there. There's never enough awareness for pediatric brain cancer, let alone cancer for children alone. Um, there's some data out there that said about um, Olivia's brain tumor itself falls in about the 10% category. So I just think to myself often, like, why us? Why the 10%? And I I try not to feel sorry for us, but I have to say that it just makes me realize that one day I know when this is all behind us and I'm one of those stronger soldiers marching on, that I can do some big help in the foundation of research for brain cancer. So might not be right now, might not be 5 years from now, but I'll figure that all out and we'll go from there. So I would just say the most important thing you guys can also do is just keep learning and just realizing that people and the children and their caregivers are individuals, not just numbers, not just medical record numbers, not just people out there. They really do have the humanized sense of what's going on. So I see somebody's from the Chamonix, Jane.
Yeah. Did you go to the Chamonix?
No, I did not. I went to a private school.
Oh, okay.
So it's called Conway-Egan.
Okay, gotcha. Well, I'm from your area, so such a small world.
It is such a small world.
Yeah.
So I will just mention it out there. Davis Slegel, who once I mentioned before, part of B Graphics, he was gracious enough to start a GoFundMe for us and our family. And it's amazing. It has raised, I don't know the exact figure, but that's the kind of funding that we're able to remodel our bathroom with. And it's kind of funny because when we came home today and things were all torn out, I looked at Livy and she had a smile on her face and I said, "What's up?" She said, "I can't wait to get in a shower where I don't have to lift my leg." And I was just like, oh my God, I never realized that much, like we've been doing this since May. And it just made me realize like, wow, like, that has affected her more than what I thought it was, in all honesty. So, it was a very hard, I'm going to say this, pill to swallow when someone said, let's do a GoFundMe, because my husband and I are not into that at all. But it was something that I knew would benefit Olivia more than anything. And it has. So, once again, if you type in the hashtag Team Livy on Facebook or Google it, it'll pop up us, which is great. So all that's on there.
Yeah, if you Google hashtag Team Livy Pharmacy Podcast, you'll find the episode and you'll find a link to the GoFundMe.
To the GoFundMe, yeah. So it's just an amazing thing that I see. And I just am beyond grateful when you guys reached out and you were like, "Do you want to tell the story?" I was like, "Livy, can I tell your story?" She's like, "Yeah, Mom." I'm like, "Okay." So, it's something that I think I've gotten bit by a little bit of a podcast bug. Maybe that's a bad thing. My husband said it's good for him because it gets me out of the house and I can talk. So, but does anybody have any other questions or just off the record, you just want to?
So I think Shannon mentioned about GoFundMe, but our student organization would also like to have the donation for you. So here I put out the information about the fundraising that go along with the Livy story. So here we will collect your donation from today until March 14th. And all the donation will go straight to Team Livy and also Lowry Children's Hospital for cancer research purpose. And in order to encourage students to donate, so we offer a raffle for students who donate $10. So if you donate at least $10 to ACCP UIC, then you will be eligible to be entered into a raffle. And then we will offer $20 for the winner.
Wow, that's very nice.
Yeah, so once we collect all the donation, and then we will donate it as as UIC student's name.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate any type of donation, but just in general, the time and the friendship you guys have created starting with today's podcast.
And let me drop the Google Form link in the chat really quick. And yeah, if anyone has any question, feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat.
Sure. I'm also, my contact information you can find pretty much out there. So if anybody has any questions outside of this, or, hey, I had a question, can you follow up, or whatever it may be, just get in contact with me. I'll be more than happy to help out.
You can follow us on Twitter. We're blasting this all over Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn. Any of those mediums that you want to reach out to me, I will put you in direct contact with Shannon as well.
Does anybody know how many people were on today's podcast? I'm not podcast savvy enough to know.
We have 43 people on here today.
Beautiful. Very nice.
Yeah, but we also share everything on our Facebook class page. Okay. So it reached to more than this today.
Your original episode had 2,300 listens, so
Oh,
it's done very well.
wow. That's done very well. Anybody have any other questions?
I just want to thank you for coming and sharing your story and Livy's story today. I really, really appreciate it. We all really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for listening to me talk.
Of course, of course.
Yes, thank you to the school. Thank you for being so empathetic at such a stage of your future careers and just starting your career and understanding, like I said, who the most important person in healthcare is. I very much appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. If there's anything I can ever do for any of you, from letters of referral to ideas for creative positions, for connections in the pharmacy industry, I've been saturating in this since 2004, so I have a very rich network that I would turn over to any of you. So reach out to me and let me know how I can help you.
Thank you all for coming today. And thank you, Shannon and Todd, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night, everyone. Bye. Thank you.